And listen, you're a very nice gentleman. I mean, every time I've seen you, talk to you, you're always polite, you're nice. And then I see some of the comments people make about you, and I laugh because as you get to know people, you can tell if they're jerks or not. You're just very direct about certain things you believe, which I have no problem with that. I think that's actually a good trait to have. But my one question would be is, the mask seems like a pretty easy task for me, right? Like, I don't like wearing the mask. I'm not a fan of the mask. I've always said that. But, you're getting fined $15,000 a day. Why not just say, hey, everybody, mask up?
For us, it's about the truth behind all of this.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Den. It is Christmas Eve, and I got a special guest here for you tonight. I have Ian Smith from Atilis Gym. He wants everything open. He doesn't agree with it. Everyone knows who you are already, Ian. Thank you for coming on to The Den. I appreciate it. You're really trying to make some big moves that we're going to jump into. But before we do that, can you tell somebody that might not know who you are real fast?
Sure. I am one of two co-owners of the Atilis Gym of Bellmawr, New Jersey. Back in May 18th, 2 months into the shutdown, my partner and I decided that we were going to reopen. We made national news, and that's largely due to the media attention that we received right before we opened. We did so not to open for the sake of opening, but we presented a public health plan where there was none. And it caught the attention of Tucker Carlson. And 1 week before the show, I went on national television and I told the world that we were going to open unless Governor Murphy decided that he wanted to work with us. And we received no response, and we opened. And it has been a grueling 7-month battle ever since. We are somewhere north of $1.4 million in fines, to the tune of $15,497.76 per day.
You have over 80 citations, correct?
Over 80 citations, some of which are criminal, most of which are just municipal charges. We've had our business license stripped from us.
Let's get back into the, because now you're a real criminal here. Okay, you kept the gym open, right? I mean, you're laughing, but I mean, I mean, it's you and Frank are some bad people here in some people's eyes. Bad people.
Correct.
You're a public nuisance they arrested you for.
Yeah. Public nuisance was one of the many
charges. Were
charges.
people clanking the weights too hard?
We were actually out in the parking lot working out when we got public nuisance charges.
Were people walking around naked with their shirts off? I'm just curious. I mean, like, I'm being serious. You're
just a bunch of meatheads in a parking lot deadlifting cars and eating pizza, actually.
And so you literally were arrested for lifting in...
No, that's not what we were arrested for. That was just a charge we got in the mail. We were arrested when they threatened to lock our doors for the second time. So Frank and I took the doors off of the hinges and opened the gym for 24 hours a day, camped out inside, and refused to leave the building. So we had.
So clearly you didn't pay your rent. You're not paying your rent. So your landlord said, "I want him arrested." Correct? That's what happened. You took the doors off. The landlord said, "I want you out." They got an eviction notice from a judge that said you have to leave, and then you took the doors off. You got arrested?
No, we're up to date on all of our bills. Actually, that was Governor Murphy's call to have us arrested because we wouldn't leave our own building. Which we are completely up to date on all of our bills, and it is private property.
Okay, so I know there's two sides to every story, but you could see for me sitting here, that seems
like the logical.
No.
Nope. Logic doesn't apply to 2020 COVID restrictions.
Okay, so, and I'm assuming if they arrested you at this point, you've had to have a ton of COVID cases linked to your gym at this point, right? You're open.
You would think so. As of this morning, we have just shy of 91,000 visits since June when we started tracking. We have detailed records of every single person who's been in the facility, broken down by each day when they fill out their health questionnaire and their temperature when they come in. And we have had 0 outbreaks linked to the facility since then. 0
outbreaks. Now, you got a movement going, that's for sure. Other people we're on our second lockdown here in the state of Pennsylvania. What's funny is I have a house in Wildwood, as you know. I just came back from there the other day, and restaurants are open, gyms are open. But here in Bristol, PA, you just drove through it, and you were hungry.
It's a ghost town.
Yeah. But how far is the bridge from us right here?
You can see it from your window, can't you? I think from that window over there you can see it. I saw it pulling up.
So Bristol Borough, Bucks County businesses, you just go right across the bridge, you eat. you know, a good friend of mine said to me, the problem with people following these orders is there's no consistency across the board. Do you feel that way? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, the inconsistencies from state to state have been laughable. I mean, there was a point I remember when gyms in New Jersey were closed, but gyms in PA were open, and all you do is double the volume. Which you would think you know, as a sensible health protocol, you would want to minimize the amount of people in an area, but they were just pushing people into smaller areas, you know, due to lockdowns. But there's been inconsistencies even within the state. You know, when Governor Murphy decided that he was going to open gyms, he mandated that all members of gyms must wear a cloth face covering at all times during exercise. And just about a week later, he opened indoor sports, high intensity, moderate and high contact indoor sports like soccer, lacrosse, stuff like that, and said that cloth face coverings should not be worn. When those activities, as far as a cardiovascular standpoint, are almost identical. We could have a whole episode and talk about them.
Well, I mean, you know, I made this point the other day. I haven't watched football. It's just for my own personal reason. I stopped watching it, but that's besides the point. Wrestling, soccer, everything's shut down here in PA, but then I saw the Eagles actually played. It wasn't this weekend, it was last weekend. I think they played at home. And it was in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So you're playing, and it blew my mind, and my son's saying, well, Dad, they're playing, why can't we? And I'm like, well, they're millionaires, and, you know.
And it's true, and that's, I mean, that case, you see that when it comes to athletics. Youth athletics are the first thing to get cut. But, you know, the multi-billion-dollar corporations of the NBA and the NFL and the NHL are able to
play.
Playing
Locally, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing right locally down here in Philadelphia.
And it's no different with big business and small business. You know, small businesses told that they were dangerous, but you could slap a mask on your face and a Lysol wipe for your cart at Walmart, and that was safe.
But they're not even doing that at Walmart. So a good friend of mine just posted Facebook Live the other day. He was in Walmart. I think he owns the Bristol Borough pub over here, Brian Irwin. He was in Walmart, and literally there had to be 300-400 people, all congested, sitting there, and he's live, but his pub is shut down over here.
Yeah, and it's funny because if he opened up his pub, he would have the health department there, he would have the police there, he would have the sheriffs there, making sure, even if he was allowed to be open, they would be sending people in to make sure that he was following procedure, but they won't do the same thing to big business. They made them follow their guidelines on maybe like week one, where they were doing temperature checks at the door, and then they went back to business as usual. And meanwhile, small businesses are still shuttered, or they have multiple layers of oppressive, restrictions on them. I feel worse for the restaurant industry than anybody at this point. These people have jumped through hoops and willingly done so to make their places safe, to abide by proper protocol, and they've got the the liquor board and the health department so far just down their throats that it's a shame. But meanwhile, you go to ShopRite and everything's fine.
It's actually sad. So, I mean, the one thing, and listen, you're a very nice gentleman. I mean, every time I've seen you, talk to you, you're always polite, you're nice. And then I see some of the comments people make about you, and I laugh because as you get to know people, you can tell if they're jerks or not. You're just very direct about certain things you believe, which I have no problem with that. I think that's actually a good trait to have. But my one question would be is, the mask seems like a pretty easy task for me, right? Like, I don't like wearing the mask. I'm not a fan of the mask. I've always said that. But, you're getting fined $15,000 a day. Why not just say, hey, everybody, mask up?
For us, it's about the truth behind all of this. We have a 15-point safety protocol. Masks are not included on that because the science shows that that's more of a symbolic gesture of public health than some actual ones. We have 8 hydroxyl generators running around the clock in our facility, circulating 30,000 cubic square feet of air every minute. That's a real health measure. That keeps our air purified at all times. It keeps surfaces disinfected at all times. We have temperature checks when you walk in the door. We have individuals, each individual that comes into the gym has their own spray bottle with a hydroxyl-based cleaner that kills coronavirus in 30 seconds on surfaces. Members are spraying and wiping as they're going. We're fogging and disinfecting. Our entire facility was spaced out 6 feet apart. Nothing is within 6 feet. Those are real and actual health measures. Slapping a cloth face covering, because they don't require masks, they require cloth face coverings.
So you can wear a bandana.
You can wear a bandana. You can wear a $5 Etsy mask. These are not medical grade masks that they're mandating. It's just something over your mouth while you're working out. And the science is very conclusive. We're not talking about masks. We're talking about cloth face coverings. That not only does that have 0% efficacy in stopping the spread of the virus, but it's actually detrimental to your health in a number of ways. Restriction of airflow, getting damp and moist. That is a ripe environment for developing bacterial pneumonia, which you're seeing a lot of people get hospitalized for. So, we want to keep people safe, but we want to really keep people safe. And, we don't mandate them, but people wear them. And if they want to and they feel comfortable doing that, then they can absolutely come into the gym. And if they don't, then there are plenty of other facilities that do mandate them.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you feel like that you're right because you walked in here and you had a mask. I mean, you were very courteous about it. Like, so you'll go to other places and put one on. You're not trying to intimidate anyone.
No.
Hey, listen, this is your place. You feel and you have the right. Is that kind of your story? Like,
absolutely.
Tell us, it's my place. If you feel comfortable here, it's your right. If you don't want to patriot us, well, you get 9 pages. We'll get into the whole freeze thing. That's amazing. I'll get into that. But you feel like that's your right as an American? That, hey, listen, if I don't want to wear a mask, I shouldn't have to. I understand the risk at this point. Or can you kind of explain?
If I typically don't wear a mask around unless I'm asked. But I stopped off today. I had to pick up a Christmas gift for my girlfriend. And I walked up and the lady said, "Do you mind if I just keep my distance?" And I said, "Sure." Because I didn't have one with me at the time. If somebody says, "Hey, would you put a mask on?" Sure, absolutely, because it's, as a business owner, that's your right to ask that. Now, do I agree with it? No, but am I trying to convince you that you have to think like me? No, absolutely not. In our facility, we've done our homework and we've come to our conclusions based off of the science, and we don't wish to require that because I don't think that it's my place to tell you how to protect your health. And the safety protocols that we have in place, like temperature checks and stuff like that, are going to make sure that we don't have sick people in the facility. So it's a question of freedom. It's a very new phenomena in 2020 where people all of a sudden feel very entitled to tell you what to do.
100%. I agree with that.
And that's, you rewind to this time last year, and if somebody would have come up to you and told you to fix something with your outfit or to cover your face, that was probably like a punchable offense at the time. And now it's, now it's commonplace where not only are people jumping in and telling people to do things, but a lot of times they're very confrontational and they're very rude about it.
They're looking for a problem.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that. They're looking for a problem.
They're turning it into something it doesn't need to be. Like I said, if I walk into your store and you say, "Hey, can you put a mask on?" Sure. If you stick your finger in your face and try to publicly shame me in Walmart because I'm not wearing one, you're not going to get a good response. And I think that's probably the oddest thing of 2020 is this newfound right to tell people what to do, when to do it, and to make others responsible for your own health.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you believe in this so much. I mean, I had to ask you. I heard that you haven't charged anyone since like March or April. I don't know the exact date. It might have been May.
April 1st.
April 1st. Which blew my mind because you're not a nonprofit. You don't get any money from the government, right?
No, definitely not.
I mean, and I'm not being rude here. Like, we know each other. You're not a multimillionaire. You're not,
No.
Right? You're a gym owner. You took a chance. You went and bought a gym off of, what was his name? Chris, correct? Mm-hmm. And you and Frank are partners, and you love the gym. And you said, "No, what? I'm not going to." You're living off of donations and selling. You're an apparel company, ultimately, selling shirts.
Yeah. We've sent T-shirts out to all 50 states and 14 countries at this point. And that's how we kind of pay our bills. It was never about.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
It is. It's amazing.
A free gym.
It's amazing that we've gotten the support and people believe in us so much that they're willing to not only come to the gym. We have people that drive down from New York 2-3 times a week, North Jersey 2-3 times a week. People who come over from Philadelphia every day, pay the $5 toll just to come work out. But it's amazing how much support we've got and how much faith people have in what we're doing. It was never about just the gym. Sure, when me and Frank opened, we were concerned about our own livelihood. we wanted to protect what we had worked so hard to build. Frank's worked his whole life for this opportunity, and so did I, and we weren't going to let it slip away. But it wasn't about the profit; it was about the principle. It was about the fact that we are Americans living in a free country, and that we have certain inalienable rights that, under all circumstances, must be protected. And one of those is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're not hurting anybody. And if COVID was something like they had originally forecasted, I don't know if everybody remembers, but Dr. Fauci said 2.2 million people would be dead by summer. Even with their numbers as they stand today, which are, let's call them, under question, we're not even close to that. So, if people were dropping dead in the streets like they showed footage of on CNN and mainstream news, I think we would be having a very different conversation. But the reality is that we're talking about something with a 99.4% survival rating for most people. And it just doesn't make sense to stay closed and ruin everything that so many people have worked hard for. It's not easy to be a small business owner. It's not easy to be a middle class American. You got to work hard, and you got to just grind day in and day out. So it was about fighting for our right to do that. And until we get a business license back, and until this fight is over, we're not going to be charging anybody.
I mean, I don't care who you are as a business owner or anyone. Whether you agree with Ian and Frank or not, you have to look at that and say that's commendable. I mean, because if you were a millionaire, I'd be like, no, what? He has the money. Like, yeah. You're not. Like, you guys have.
My truck out there has almost 300,000 miles on it.
Okay. Yeah. So.
And every time I fix it, another noise starts happening. So it's.
And Frank has kids. You don't, correct?
My girlfriend has one son, so I have a small family. Yeah, I have two mouths to feed, and Frank has 5 kids and a wife.
And some people said you were doing this for the money. Clearly, it's not the money, because you're not making money. No. You're not making money. That's a fact. And I understand what it is to run business and multiple businesses, and I don't think I'd survive here a day on donations. A day. I mean, it's a testament to what people believe in what you're doing.
It is.
And I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of people don't agree with what you're doing and what you've done, and that's up to each person as a right as an American to figure that out for themselves.
Absolutely.
This week they just passed the COVID-19 package. We were talking about this, right? And my phone's been blowing up. Lance, they passed it. Well, and I'm glad they did, right? But we talked about it, right? $900 billion, right? How much is going to the American people?
200 of that 900 billion.
So, and you had some opinions about this. And I just did some research to see, because I don't think people really do the research and look where things went. I said $40 million to the Kennedy Center. I've never been there. Truthfully, I don't know what it is. I was going to Google it and say...
It has nothing to do with middle-class Americans who are struggling to pay their bills right now.
So it doesn't have anything to do with COVID. I didn't know it was a research center. So not.
Nope.
But I could tell you like the $154 million to the National Gallery of Art.
Has nothing to do with middle-class Americans that are struggling.
The Smithsonian Institute, I've never been there.
Also nothing to do with middle-class Americans.
$1 billion. $1 billion. Mm-hmm. The Woodrow Wilson Center, $14 million. National Foundation of Arts and Humanities. I don't even know what humanities is. That's sad, but I know it's something you take in school. But think about that, $167 million. Sudan, $700 million. Mm-hmm. And the list goes: Egypt 1.3, 1.4 to
aid to foreign countries. It's going to educational gender studies in Pakistan, which again, I mean, it's those are all noble things.
What does that have to do with COVID?
Yes.
What's that have to do with COVID? Number one, and this is my point to everybody, right? What's that do with COVID? Number two, over 200,000 restaurants have gone out of business as of today, this year. With an average lifespan of how many years do you think, Ian, they were in business before COVID? How many years was the average?
Probably, I would say less than 5, like 3.
16 years.
Really?
Yeah, 16 years. Think about
so these are long-term places that have made it, because the restaurant industry is very hard to make it.
It is. So these are businesses.
These are places that
these aren't fly-by-night places.
Wow.
This isn't.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So 16 years is the average year. And what's funny is, I just saw the Irish pub on Walnut Street just went up for sale this week.
Yeah.
So but yet we couldn't take money from those other people, from those other institutions,
catch them up on their rent,
and kept people up, make them whole. That you mandated them, you took away the right for them to make a living. Is that how you feel?
Under the threat, yeah, and under the threat of serious punishment too. I mean, it's not as if you asked them to comply and they said, "Sure, no problem, anything you need." You had to follow up that order with the threat of essentially state-sponsored violence. Bringing the police in, having people arrested, stripping people of their business licenses, imposing heavy fines. You're coaxing people in with threats. So,
well, especially when you say the police, when you threaten most people. I mean, I love the whole defund the police. Then they want to call the police. When the average person, when you say I'm going to call the police on you, their ass puckers a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because most people have never had any real run-ins with the cops, and
most
they don't
cops
want
are good.
to. Yeah, they don't want to. They have no reason to call the police unless they need them.
Most of your police friends and my police friends don't even want to be involved in this.
I would say upwards of 95% or more don't want anything to do with it, because most cops are middle-class Americans. A lot of cops are, part of families that run small businesses. Most cops are very involved in their local communities, and that's who's hurting communities like this. It doesn't make any sense that, first of all, it took you 8 months from your original stimulus to come up with a second one. So we've been sitting here waiting for some sort of help from the government, who promised help. Very early on, they promised that they were going to deliver and not to worry. 14 days.
It was always been 14 days,
yeah.
Correct.
And here we are
9 months later.
9 months later, and it took you 8 months to come up with some sort of sensible second bailout. And the best that you can do is $600 for each person for their troubles over the past 8 months. That $600 is insulting. It's,
if you don't give all that foreign aid out and give it to all those other places, you're looking at probably almost, let's go like $2,400, $3,200 a person.
I think it works out to like $2,300 a person, which again doesn't save anybody, but it sure helps.
It starts here.
It sure helps. But you want to be charitable and give money overseas, and again, that's noble, but it's just not the time and the place for that right now.
Not right now. And those
not while Americans are hurting at home and hurting in ways that we have never hurt before. This is something that nobody alive, for the most part, has witnessed this economic catastrophe. It's killing people. It literally is killing people.
Do you think we both heard? I mean, I don't know if you know, but there's a town in Washington, Mosey Rock, that they came out and said we're not shutting down. Like they came out and said to the governor, state police, we're staying open for business. Do you think that's a whole town? That's the first town that came out and said, I know we're going to talk about all these businesses that are following you, about your site you build. I think it's stay open, stay free, correct?
Yep.
We're going to talk about that and jump into that. But do you think more towns are going to start doing this?
I do think that you're going to start to see it more and more. The reality is I looked up that town. And I think there's the population's like just north of 10,000 people.
Okay.
And it's in a very rural area of Washington. If you shut all those businesses down, that town is just going to implode. I mean, that town is essentially a self-sustaining community. The people in the town spend money in the town, and the people then return that money back into the town, and it circulates through the area. And that happens in every small town in America, whether it's a rural place or it's a suburb like Bristol. Mm-hmm. This Main Street. I love Main Streets. That's one of my favorite things in the world, is driving down like a nice, just quiet Main Street and seeing all these small businesses. People spend money there, and that money circulates right back into the communities around them. When we start shuttering these small businesses, guess who profits? Walmart profits, Amazon profits. That money leaves the community, and it doesn't ever return.
Never.
It gets siphoned up out of the community, and that's when you see cities like Camden. Camden's a perfect example. It doesn't even have to be a city, but you see industries pull out, and what's left is just an economic wasteland where people are relying on government aid because there's no economic activity in the area.
Well, look at California. I mean, California's had more opiate ODs and deaths in San Fran.
By 3 times.
At 3 times. Actually, more people in San Fran died by opiates in the last 3 months in ODing than COVID.
Yeah, I think actually closer to 4.
So think about that. I mean, I'm not saying COVID's not real, but we understand the risk at this point. And, we're shut down here in PA. You're not shut down fully. I truly believe the only reason why you're not shut down fully is Murphy has to run for election again next year. I truly believe that with all my heart. I think you'd be shut down otherwise.
Yeah,
I mean that with all my heart.
That's probably it. Across any
both
political
Democrat
spectrum,
or Republican. I don't think
at first I think it was much more of a political thing where Democrats were a little more on board with it, because a lot of the Democratic leaders were the ones who were pushing it, but it's shown to affect everybody regardless of political affiliation. So I think you're starting to see that wall come down between most Americans, and I think that's a good thing because people are starting to relate to one another more.
Well, both sides would be. I don't think, and this is where I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I don't think, even I was scared in the beginning, right? I got my sister that, if she caught this or my mom, they would die. They're not going to be my sister definitely. She's immune problems, bunch of issues. So I think I was scared. I think a lot of people were scared. You didn't know. Now it has a 99+% survival rate, and I'm not saying it's not serious. I'm not saying it's not bad. And there's some people watching this saying, "Lance, I hope you get it and die," because that's just how people are. They're very, they're just very nasty people.
Armchair revolutionaries of the world. Yeah. One nasty comment at a time.
And that's okay, but you still got to say more people die from heart disease, more people die from cancer, more people, and we're not shutting the world down for that.
Well, the problem is that COVID came around and we turned the idea of public health into this one-dimensional, one-stop entity where COVID was the only concern. Public health is a very complex issue, and to prioritize to the degree that we have COVID is dangerous because with that much focus and attention and policy all about COVID, all of these other concerns have not only taken a back seat, but essentially just been completely forgotten. And drug use and addiction is one of those things. It's when you're shutting down churches, when you're shutting down AA meetings, when you're shutting down the gym, when you're shutting down other places where people who are in active recovery go as an outlet, because you don't want them to get COVID, these people are struggling, and it shows because the rate of relapse is higher than ever. The rate of overdose is higher than ever. The rate of suicide is higher than ever, and it's because we've ultra prioritized COVID as the be all end all of health. And the reality is that heart disease still exists, and suicide still exists, and depression and anxiety and mental disorders still exist, and cancer still exists. But all of these things have been, and again, you can prioritize. It's not about making everything equal, but you can't prioritize to the point of absurdity, and that's what we've done.
And also the recession, maybe that's going to hit or not hit, but people are definitely going to lose their homes, or people are going to be losing their businesses. And I guess my question is this. You see a lot of these leaders, right? It seems like COVID came down into there's only one expert in the whole world, Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci, right?
Yeah.
What they say is gospel. If you disagree with them, you're a lunatic, you're this, you're that.
Anti-masker, a science denier.
Or whatever it may be. But there's other doctors that disagree with them wholeheartedly, but it's not even up for debate with, and we're going to get into this. Social media will censor them. Twitter will censor them. I mean, you have a large Instagram following now, Facebook,
I've experienced some of that censoring as well, yeah.
Correct, but do you think that there should be only one voice for the American people and that's it, or do you think there should be multiple? Because Dr. Burke just said do not travel, and she traveled with 2 other households, right? Yeah. I feel like we're living in Hunger Games.
Yeah, and the hypocrisy is wild. It's downright disrespectful in a lot of ways, and it's happened enough times where it's no longer a mistake. These people aren't mistakenly going and getting haircuts in San Francisco like Nancy Pelosi, and they're not mistakenly vacationing at their lake homes like Gretchen Whitmer. These are people who are saying don't do this, but going and doing it. And there needs to be more voices. This needs to be an open discussion. The reality is that our political leaders have forgotten that they are elected officials that are elected with the job of serving the public. They are not elected for the job of ruling over the public. So when Dr. Fauci or Governor Murphy gets up and has a press conference and just starts telling people what to do, they're not doing their job. The American system is founded on open discussion of ideas. That's why we have the right to free speech. Good ideas will prevail over bad ideas. But when you have state-sponsored, not state-sponsored, but sort of state cooperative media who just parrot everything that these people say until it becomes truth, that's a dangerous thing. And it's not to say that they have bad intentions, but people are susceptible to being wrong. Just because you're Dr. Fauci or Bill Gates doesn't mean that you are infallible.
Well, they have their own agendas.
And they all have their own agendas, and people are susceptible to those things.
We're doing a media piece right now on the media, on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Twitter, Facebook, about how they are the best digital marketing agencies in the world.
Yeah.
Don't worry about one SEO. Go hire Fox News. Go hire MS, because the people just, no matter what side of the aisle you are, just follow. It's insane to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've gotten very good at it through the years.
I mean, they come with these heartwell things, and they cry on television. And, we're putting a whole piece together. I think people really enjoy about how the media just manipulates you on whatever side you're on.
It's become a propaganda tool. And, it's something, and I think that's the mistake a lot of Americans make is, once upon a time our media agencies were just that. They were there to inform, and everybody's got their bias. And that's fair, and we should have opinions, and we can. But when you start to try to disguise those bias, and start setting up your programming to where it behaves more like propaganda than it does information, I think that's a major that should set off a big red flag for a lot of people, because they're no longer having open discussions. They're having one-sided onslaughts of just information that's just designed to sort of scare you or anger you or enrage you or upset you into staying on their side.
And staying tuned in, their ratings go up, so they get more money to sell advertising. They don't understand. If no one watched these people, they would probably tell the truth, because seriously, because they would probably tell the truth, because I don't get paid for people to watch the Lions Den. It's free, right? And no one comes down and says, I don't let anyone sponsor. I have a show. Let me run a sponsor. I'm like, absolutely not. It's free content. If I start charging you for this content, right, by selling advertising, I'm now going to what their narrative is.
That's a very interesting observation, and it's, if you sit back, whatever news station you watch or whatever one you subscribe to, they're all the same. They're
all terrible.
But if you watch it, it almost reminds you of like the feelings you get inside of a casino, where you have all these like stimulus just going off. You got this ticker up in the corner with the death counter, and it's blinking, and you've got the flashing messages across the bottom, and the infographics with the with the loud noises, and it's like no different than sitting at a slot machine. Like it's designed in the same way that is to keep you focused.
Of course.
And not only focused on that, but also blacking out everything around you. Like it's one thing to pay attention to it, but it's another to the point where you're almost like hypnotized by it.
The news, social media, let's talk about this. You've gotten big followings on social media. How have you used social media to impact your business, which it will reopen? I mean, it's going to stand the test of time. Yeah. Impact your business and you personally.
It's definitely weird, going from just, I guess, like having a normal social media presence like most people do, to one that has grown 10 times. I guess when this started, I had about 20,000 followers on Instagram, which is my sort of my main method of communication with the world, to somewhere north of 230,000. So it's been like a learning process, because it's a lot different when people start looking to you for information. You have to be careful with what you say. And I've learned that a couple times where, I've said or posted something too quickly, where I may have not had all the information, or I was speaking out of emotion. And, when you have that big of an audience, it comes with a certain amount of responsibility, because not only are people listening to you, but they're expecting information from you at this point.
And there's so much false information on social media.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you don't take that side of it lightly. You're trying to put the right information out.
No, because it's, social media can be an incredible tool for an individual or a brand or anything like that. And there's a lot of good that's come with it. But if you mishandle it, you can lose it very quickly. People very quickly can just click and unfollow you, and that's it. And your reach is diminished. So it's been a extremely useful tool for us, especially in our fight against the shutdown measures. It's allowed us every time something has happened to broadcast it to the world. My most recent video that went crazy, got probably north of 20-30 million views across the internet, and that wasn't even intended to do that. That was just that was something we were just joking around doing, but you can get a message out extremely quickly, and it's that message got out, and it brought a whole new wave of support of people who kind of heard our story in the beginning, but may not have caught on. And that video produced 70,000 new followers in 3 days. So it's an incredible tool, but you have to learn how to navigate it appropriately.
And being that you have led the charge here for many, and you have, let's be realistic, you're a pioneer, you're a leader in this. I mean, most other people didn't start back when, but people were fighting this time.
Yeah.
People were saying, I had to shut my wife's restaurant down. I had to shut my wife's restaurant down here in Philadelphia. I had no choice. I don't have outside dining, right? And I had to make a business decision. I have other businesses. My wife understood. Does it suck? It really sucked because I had to lay people off right before Christmas. I mean, it sucked,
terrible.
But you came up with a concept, stay open, stay free, which I think is a great ideal. I'm not saying I agree with it, or against it, right? But I think someone has to. There's two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
And someone has to lead both sides, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying this is the side I'm going to lead. Can you talk to people about what stay open, stay free is?
So, through the past 7 months of opening, I have talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. A lot of those people are small business owners. And I've gotten just a ton of questions. How do I open? What do I do if this happens? What do I say if this happens? And what I've found is that, especially in this second round of lockdowns, probably all, if not, well, let's just call it most businesses don't want to shut down.
I'd say 99.9.
Yeah, they've experienced the first lockdown. They've watched a lot of their friends and family lose their businesses, and they were lucky enough to survive, and now they're being told to shut down a second time. So I wanted to help businesses stay open, because the reality is that most want to stay open, but they're just paralyzed by the unknown and the possibilities of punishment. So Stay Open, Stay Free was designed for several reasons. What it essentially is an online directory. Think of it as a Yelp for small businesses that are defying COVID restrictions, defying COVID lockdowns, or even just small businesses that are suffering as a result of COVID policy in general. There's a lot of places like cleaning services, that go into people's homes that are struggling now because of the fear that a lot of their existing customers may have had. Mm-hmm. So it's a web directory of businesses that are impacted by COVID shutdowns and are fighting back against them. So if you're keeping your restaurant open, indoor dining, mm-hmm. when in PA, you go and you register your business. So that
is there a registration free?
Nope, it's 100.
So this is free.
100%
another free thing.
100% free. We got
to talk to you about making money.
Yeah,
can't be free.
I gotta make something one of these days. But it's a completely free resource, because it's my belief that if enough businesses open to where there's too many people to punish, that this will fall apart like a house of cards, and that the more people that open, the more other businesses will be inspired to open. So Stay Open, Stay Free provides small businesses with the ability to network with their communities, because there's a ton of people.
And this is nationwide. I've been on it. I played with it. I mean,
nationwide.
Bars, restaurants, gyms. Mm-hmm. I mean, it gives
Personal
you all the
training,
details.
Hair salons,
everything.
Yeah. So it allows the average American who doesn't own a small business, who want to help. I've talked to thousands of people. Hey, do you know of a gym that's open in Michigan? Hey, do you these are people that will support you. So, and they'll support you loyally. very, very loyally. You know, the customers that we have at the gym, or they're not customers, the members that we have at our gym, you know, they're fiercely loyal. You know, and these people will be too. So it does that. It allows businesses in the same area to connect with one another. You know, so if you type in your zip code and you own a restaurant and you find out that there's 3 other restaurants within a 10-mile radius that are all open, you can network and connect. You can pool resources and experiences with those businesses. Because
you also have FAQs on here, correct?
Yes. Not up yet, but that will be up there. The FAQ is just going to be me answering a lot of the frequently asked questions that we've gotten. You know, what do I say when the cops show up? Do I have to let the police in? You know, what do I say when the health department shows up? Am I allowed to cover my windows? You know, what sort of signage should I put up to make sure that nobody walks in without, you know, proper permission? There's a million questions that people have, and what I found was a lot of businesses aren't opening because they don't have the answers to these questions, and they're just scared of the unknown. So that'll be a resource, and then we'll be collecting resources. There's a lot of businesses who are open and have been open and who want to help out other small businesses. So we'll be doing some fundraising. A couple of businesses said they wanted to, you know, put out a certain product that they would donate X amount of the proceeds to a small business fund. So we're going to be doing some fundraising as well, and that'll come in a couple different forms: donations, other businesses contributing. We're going to be selling some apparel and stuff like that, where 100% of the profits go to small business. Then we're just going to start bailing out businesses on our own. You know, and it may not be a $900 billion stimulus package, but, you know, if I can help take some of the stress off of a struggling small business by maybe paying one of their past due bills and sort of giving them a kick in the ass and lighting the fire back under them, you know, that's enough for me.
Now, are you afraid that, and are they afraid? Because you got thousands of people on this site already. I mean, there's a ton of websites on here, a ton of different businesses that are already registered here. Are they afraid of any lashback from the governors, the police, anyone, or not really? I mean, they got to be having that conversation because you're exposed at this point.
You're openly saying we're open,
correct?
You know, which is what we did, and we got quite a bit of backlash.
Clearly,
but we got quite a bit of support too, and that's what I think that people need to come to terms with, is that sure, what you're doing is, by opening, what you're doing is not easy at all. And it's going to be a roller coaster, and you're probably going to take some punches, you know, but, you know, I keep parroting this phrase that the worst is already happening to you. You know, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is already happening. You know, you're being told for the second time that you can't earn a living, and that here's $600.
Do you think we open up January 3rd or 4th?
Here in PA?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They asked for 14 days the first time, so I tend to just be very skeptical with these politicians.
I mean, you're 8 days away, 9 days away at this point. I mean, what's changing?
Exactly. Yeah. What's?
I'm just asking you, what's changing?
It's an arbitrary number. Nothing's going to change. You know, COVID is still going to exist. It will still spread from person to person. Some people will still get sick, but the majority of people will be just fine. And so in terms of business, you know, in the environment, nothing's going to change. Gyms aren't going to be any safer in 8 days than they are today. That's just, you know, to try to say that that's a reality is laughable, because, you know, again, with these public health officials and these politicians, show us some information that backs up that statement.
That would make things a lot easier for people. It would. I mean,
if you could show me on a graph, if you could plot the information, if you know, because that's how science works. You know, it does have to be, just because you say science doesn't mean something's true.
Most models are built wrong.
Yeah.
When people do predictive modeling, most of it's wrong.
Yes.
Most business plans are built and they never even come close.
You don't even come close to it. Yeah.
So I try to tell people, you can put whatever you want on a piece of paper. Yeah. It doesn't work 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. If you could lay a public health policy out on the table and say, this is why we're closing gyms here in PA, or this is why we're closing gyms and indoor dining, you know, because here's our numbers here and here's our rate of infection in these facilities. But the reality is that they don't want to show the information because the information isn't very favorable to what they're saying. You know, gyms are an example, right? So we've had data come from the U.S. and abroad that says the rate of infection at gyms. So if you walk into a gym and you're COVID positive and you don't know, or, you know, and you walk in, there is a 1% chance that you will infect another individual in that gym.
I saw that.
Right? Grocery stores, 19.8% chance that you'll infect somebody. Government buildings, 22%.
They're open.
All open, and they've been open. So they're not showing the data because the data isn't very favorable.
I also saw it's like 76% at a family gathering. Like, it's astronomical. Like, the majority of these cases are at socializations, family gatherings. But, I mean, you're going to see your family for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yeah, I'm going tonight, actually.
I'm going to go see mine because, truthfully, I might not ever see my mom or my... You just don't know. So,
yeah.
Like, you don't know when someone's last day is. To say, I'm not... And the people that put these rules in place, so many of them still went on vacations. They went to...
Governor Murphy's on vacation right now.
Okay, and think about that. And the one person went to Cabo for a wedding over Thanksgiving. Like, what are we doing at this point?
We are listening to nonsense collectively. We are allowing people who, at the very best, are acting very selfishly, and in a worst case scenario, I think are acting very maliciously towards the middle class.
But why the middle class? That's my part. Like, I'm not saying it's not real, right? And I believe you should I've never washed my hands so much in my life. I've never made my kids wash their hands so much in my life. I've never.
Sure.
I wear a mask. I'm not going to lie. I don't wear a mask all the time. I don't like the mask. And everything I do is for me, right? So I deal with the things I have to deal with. But to shut down restaurants, to shut down gyms, to shut down all these other things for a second time when we know that's not where it's happening. Like, what are we doing? Why the middle class?
It's... Unfortunately, you won't know these people's true intentions, but... I think that the nature of government is to grow. Government has been growing since we started, the United States over 200 years ago. And because of that phenomena, the people that are in these positions of power are going to seek to sort of preserve that power. They're career politicians. They make their living off of telling people what to do.
And selling them what's good for them.
And telling them what's good for them. And
I use the word selling, not telling, because they sell. They make you feel good about getting shut. Oh, he cares about us.
Yeah.
But he's out eating and drinking in a French restaurant the same night. He tells everybody not to have anyone over for Thanksgiving.
So the middle class of America is the backbone of the American spirit. Not every country in the world has a fluid middle class like we
Correct.
do. We're actually one of the few places in the world that actually do.
The majority don't.
In most countries and in most systems of governing, you have a system of haves and have-nots. And the only thing that prevents that is an open market, a free open market, where there is a fluid middle class. It allows people, no matter who you are in America, whether you come here through immigration, whether you're born here, whether you're born in the upper class, whether you're born in the middle class, whether you're born with nothing. If you do certain things, like work hard, like stay dedicated, like take your education seriously, like spend your money in the right way, be responsible for your own actions, there's 100% chance that you're going to end up in a better place than what you started at in life, and that goes for everybody. That's not exclusive to skin color or gender. That's the reality of the place we're in. And
some would argue that, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
And is it a perfectly level playing field? Absolutely not. But it's a field that we can all play on. So when you have that middle class, that's a big power structure, and that middle class keeps the very wealthy in check, because that's where most of your votes come from, and that's where most of your political power comes from. Is the people living the American dream. We vote these people in. We give them the authority to do the things that they do. If you kneecap that middle class, and you slowly chip away at small business and free enterprise, you get a power structure where you have the haves and the have-nots, and that solidifies your position as a politician, or as a somebody that's in the class of haves. And it's hard for me to see what they're doing as something other than that, because they're not helping. and it's very, very, very clear that their policies are not working.
I agree with that. Their policies are not working.
It's either that or they're just really stupid, which I guess is a possibility, but I don't think that these people are stupid. I think that they know what they're doing, and in a best case scenario, they're acting in their own self-interests, and in a worst case scenario, that they're acting with bad intention.
I would hope. I don't agree with all the policy. I have no problem saying it. I think a lot of them are stupid. I think a lot of them aren't consistent. I think I've flown now probably 20 times since on COVID, and the airplanes are packed, but yet you got to sit 6 feet away inside the airport itself. So like these things just don't make sense, right? So, now I can sit in a tent outside and it's fully enclosed.
As long as it's outside.
As long as it's outside, right?
If it's inside, outside, it's okay.
It's a problem. So, there's just things that don't make sense to me. And I'm not anything. You look like a Greek god, by the way. Kudos to you, my man. But I do try and stay somewhat for 46, somewhat alive and healthy. You take a gym away from someone, it's very easy to get depressed, put weight on, and etc. So I don't agree with that. But so we got to change the policy for sure. Here's a question for you on a personal note. And I was just curious. I interviewed your the person that sold Chris to you. He sold to you. Have you guys patched things up? I know his brand was doing well. I guys knew there was brand confusion. Have you guys kind of made good amends? Because you're a lot more laid back than your partner. Your partner's full throttle, I call him. Nice guy, but he's full throttle.
We bought Atilis in June of 2019, and unfortunately, Chris doesn't like the fact that we're open and honest about what we bought. We bought a dumpster fire of a gym, and the fact of the matter is that Frank and I worked really, really hard to turn it around. And I think that through misunderstanding on both of our parts, that the relationship deteriorated in a really, really bad way. We were supposed to be sort of a quote franchise, even though we're completely independent. We were supposed to represent the brand,
like a licensed agreement.
Yeah, and very quickly that dissolved. There were some issues where we weren't informed about some things that we thought were very important about the condition of the gym, and Chris had certain beefs with us, and the relationship went south, and it hasn't gotten much better.
But all three of you are actually good people. Like, none of you are I've never seen you malice, him malice.
I don't have any malice towards them, but I won't sit here and go back and forth with a grown man who wants to argue on social media and drag my name through the mud. That's where I draw the line.
I can appreciate that.
When the discussion goes away from our differences in business and you start to attack myself and my partner personally, and you try to smear me by bringing up my criminal history.
It's not a criminal history. You made you made a mistake.
Yes, yeah.
And know what? You paid for that mistake. And I'm not here to stick up for you, but let's be realistic. A lot of shit happens in life.
Sure.
You paid your debt, and you got to move on.
And I've come to terms with that, and I'm fully open to people being aware of that and discussing it. I've spoke at 20 public high schools about it. I've educated people about it. I've never hit it, but when the only reason you're bringing it up is to try to discredit what I'm doing, I'm going to defend myself as much as I need to and move on from there. And not to
stick up for him. Part of it, he felt like it's his baby, it's his name. I know he didn't create the name, but he bought it. He has a lot of passion. He cares.
He knew who I was going in.
Correct.
If he thought that I was such a bad person, I'm not sure why he sold it to Frank and I to begin with.
I don't believe he thinks you're a bad person. I don't believe you guys think he's a bad person. I just think, like you said, it just kind of went sideways.
It did, and it's a shame because the last major contact I had was when we first originally reopened, right beforehand, and I reached out and kind of extended the olive branch and said, hey, differences aside, we're going to open. Where are you at? Because we're hurting and we have one facility and you have 4. So, can we talk about it? And we talked about it, and then that went south too, where he decided to go a different route. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm focused on what's mine. And I wish him all the best. I wish that Atilis could be moving together in the same direction. But as long as we don't negatively impact each other, I think that's fine that we take the brand in different directions, and his brand, the way he runs it, is successful, and he's been in business for a long time, and I'm sure he'll be in business for a long time. But we like to do things a little differently, and we have our own twist to it, and we're recognized for our differences. And I think that's fine. It would be nicer if it was unified, but not everything works out like that, and you never know. Maybe water under the bridge will be something one of these days.
Time heals a lot of things. Yeah. I could speak for all three. I got to know all three. People ask me all the time, I'm like, no, I think they're all honestly just three good people that shit just went sideways, and sometimes shit just goes sideways. Mm-hmm. That's life.
Yeah. You butt heads one too many times, and then next thing you know, communication breaks down, and it's
no good after that.
No.
Here's a question for you on the final roar. There's a lot of small businesses out there. There's a lot of people that look up to you as a leader. What would you say to them going into 2021 about their business and about what's going on? What would be your message to them to give them some type of hope? Because a lot of people are looking for something right now. I
think that it is important as a small business owner right now, or even just whether you're a small business owner or you have aspirations to set up some alternate streams of income, or you're just a hardworking American at pursuing your career. The game has changed significantly, and I don't think that for the foreseeable future it's going to be much different. And you need to come to terms with that and stop sitting on the sideline. If you want to be in business, and if you want your business to survive, to see 2021 and beyond, you're going to have to come to terms with the reality that it is a hostile environment for small businesses right now. And that's not just about gyms and restaurants. I think just in general, you're seeing politics favor big corporations over small business in a way that we haven't seen before. And that extends outside of the realm of COVID restrictions. So it's going to take even more work to succeed, and that doesn't mean that it's not possible, because Frank and I are a shining example of that. Even though we don't charge and we're not profiting, our gym is triple as busy, if not more. We've become a brand that's recognized around the world and around the country, and no matter what happens with COVID or how 2020 ends and 2021 ends, that we will be in business, and we will be we'll be where we want to be in 2021. But it comes with the reality that the game is different now, and it's a fight. So if you want to be in business, you're gonna have to fight, and you're gonna have to stand up for yourself. And
you have to make some tough decisions.
You're gonna have to make some really tough decisions.
Well, I appreciate you coming in here to the den. Everyone, look up Ian. Good guy. Atilis Gym, Bellmawr. Listen, whether you believe in his cause or you don't believe in his cause, he has the right as an American to have his viewpoint, and we can't lose focus on that. And I think so many people have forgotten that's what this country was founded on hey, listen, I believe in this, I'm not hurting anyone, the people coming to me know what it is at this point, they understand the risk, and he's going to stay open and do what he feels is right, and that's his right as an American. And those that do agree with him, reach out to Ian, support him, follow him on Instagram, go to his site, make a donation, and help him and his partner out. Ian, thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to follow me at Lance Bachmann on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Facebook at Lance Bachmann Digital. And every Thursday we drop a new podcast. Don't forget to listen to it. We're giving out great content. And remember this is the time to build your business right now. Let's effing go, everybody.